So I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep taking steps. And I just kept doing that for about a year. And then I again looked back at a year later and thought, all right, well, I can look at where I was a year ago, cease and desist, transmission going out, no money, food stamps. Okay, well, here I am a year later, still on food stamps. Transmission's fine. Cease and desist isn't a problem. Now I have a little bit more residual income coming in. Okay. So we're tracking in a better direction. We're going to run into more hurdles that we don't know about.
And you had mentioned this, like life will hit you with these things, and they can bring you to zero. What if rock bottom was actually your launch pad? On this episode, I sit down with Stephen Morton, an author, actor, entrepreneur, and deep thinker who has turned some of life's harshest rejections into powerful reinventions. He speaks openly about the shame of going through bankruptcy and relying on food stamps to support his family, and standing in that line, questioning how it all came to this. But it was in those humbling moments that he began to rebuild, one small and intentional step at a time, eventually creating a six-figure income. What sets him apart is his method. He shares how writing saved his life, how small daily wins helped him crawl out of survival mode, and how he developed the HELM Theory, a personal framework built on health, ethos, love, and money. Stephen's story is proof that your lowest moment might just be the one that points you toward your real purpose. On this episode of Navigating Now. Stephen, you're a stud for being here today.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Oh my gosh. We met like literally in Liberty Lake. You're just one of the hometown grown kids that's always there with me, and we're like running to each other at Starbucks all the time. And
all the time, man.
We just started connecting and we started having conversations.
Didn't we meet at a funeral home?
Well, technically speaking, no.
Okay.
Because
we met before that.
We met before that.
Okay.
However, that's so funny. You're talking about the Valley Chamber.
It was a chamber thing. That's
chamber
right.
thing,
Yeah,
and we ended up meeting at a funeral home, and it was awkward. And it was like, "Hi, what a great networking event!"
Yeah,
place,
no
right?
kidding, no kidding.
And didn't they give out like free chocolates? But they
did.
were like little caskets.
And Rachel, she couldn't eat anything because it was just being in the environment because we were there, and she started getting woozy, and so we had to go. But
Rachel being your wife.
Yes, I got to shake your hand at least and say, "Hey, Blue," right?
Right. Awkward conversations. But we met, and it's like we've just basically BS'd with conversations a lot, and we realized, or at least I realized, like we had so much in common. And you are an author. You're an actor, a model. You're locally here now in Spokane, and you've also been an entrepreneur. And it's like all of these little stories. I'm like, man, that's kind of me, just in a different path, right? And a different age, and you have different experiences. And I just love your stories. And so I found out that you wrote a book, and you were kind enough to get me a copy of it. And I just want to know, like, let's introduce yourself to the audience, number one. And number two, like, what got you to write your book? Because it's a similar reason why I started mine.
Yeah, and that was exciting. That was one of the reasons, too, that I think we just kind of clung to each other. I'm like, this is a guy that I can understand, I think, what he's going through. He's done all these things. We probably both have ADD on some level, and we can't stop. But Stephen with a PH, have to get that out there. You know, it's funny. I introduce myself that way now just to be a little different.
Sure.
Because when I say Stephen, it doesn't really stick, or they spell it wrong, and then it reverts to Steve or whatever. But
people assume my name's like they're either going to call me Bo or Bruce. Right. Like they're like there cannot be Blue.
Right.
But it is. Okay.
Like, wait, no, is
Blue,
that a nickname?
Like the color, right? It's not a nickname. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I got to a point in my life, we can get into the thick of it in a little bit, that I had to pull all these experiences together that I was having, and I had to share them somehow. And I started writing because it was therapy. I had to say, you know what, this is either going to be a really, really good story, or I'm going to go down in flames. And nobody's, I hate to say it this way, but having those suicidal thoughts, thinking how do I get out of this? How do I, I'm in my 40s or late 30s when I started really getting in the thick of it. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got 2 kids. I've got nothing to show for my life. I've got no retirement. I have no idea what I'm doing. What am I going to do? What are my next steps here? And so I knew that if I start putting this down on paper, well, for one thing, I can reflect on it later, which I think is pretty interesting because it's so therapeutic when you put your thoughts down and then you go back and read it again and say, yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was feeling, because you can get the emotion out really quick and write whatever you want. And then you can go back and edit it later, but you can look and say, huh, yeah, wow, I remember feeling that. I remember thinking that. Now I don't feel that way. Well, why don't I feel that way? Well, because I did all these things. But when I did, oh man, interesting.
But were you writing these things as you were feeling the feelings, or was it therapeutic, like after you made it through and after you went through your obstacles and your challenges and the trauma that you did?
Right.
Like, is that when you wrote it, or as you were going through these things, you were like, man, this is going to be my coping mechanism? Like, did you think that, or did people always, your entire life, say, Stephen, you've done so much, you've had so many experiences, you should write a book?
Definitely not the latter. No, definitely not the latter. It was when I started writing, I'd experienced enough hurdles that I'd gone through with changing careers and trying to figure out, what the heck to do, that I said, well, I'm going to recap everything for a couple of years worth. And then once I got to the point where I said, okay, well, now I've recapped everything, but now what do? I don't have a success to end this book yet. I'm still broke. I wasn't even on food stamps when I started writing it. Then we'll get into that. But I got to the point, I'm like, well, now what do? It's not a finished book. I don't have a happy ending here. I don't have any successes to give anybody. So I have to keep writing. There has to be a point where it stops. And how long is this going to take? Is it going to take a year, 2 years, 5 years? Am I ever going to finish it?
Yeah.
Because until I get to some place where I feel like I can share this with the world now, I can give somebody this information or these steps that I've gone through, that somebody can read it and say, okay, wow, that guy went through a lot of garbage, but look where he is now, and I have the full picture. Because you hear about a lot of guys that are successful, whether they're investors or, sports heroes, whatever. And they talk about the starting. They talk about maybe when they were in high school, if they were a sports guy, or college, or investors when they were broke. And then they talk about when they're really wealthy, but they don't give you the in-between, because nobody wants to really hear about that.
Well, and everybody wants to see the end result, right?
Now, exactly.
And not only that, but it's like, that's the sad thing, is that that everyone just sees the successes, and no one knows the pain and the time, the sacrifice, the opportunity cost that got that person there. And so
absolutely,
I love that, and that resonated with me within your book and within your story when we had conversations. It's like, that's the other thing, is that I want people to know and hear that it's when you've achieved something, or when you have experienced something, there was a path to get there, right? Whether that's a negative experience or a challenge, or it's the greatest achievement of all time, right? And it's like, there is a path there, and to understand that you're not alone, you're not the only person who's ever gone through that, is eye-opening to a lot of people.
It's empowering for somebody that might be thinking, this is it, I'm the only one that's dealing with these struggles. There's a lot of people dealing. In fact, everybody deals with struggles. And so I realized when I continued to write, I thought, well, I'm not going to just go experience a month and then go back and try to recap it. Let's just write it as it's happening.
But did a therapist tell you, like, hey, man, you should write? Did Rachel, your wife, say that? Or you were just like, have you always been like a therapeutic person? Like,
never.
Is that nothing?
Never.
You just decided to pick up a pen and paper one day and to start going.
Yeah, and I'm the last person that somebody would have thought would write a book. Because I asked people, like, hey, you should write a book on that. I could never write. I'm like, I couldn't either.
Yeah.
But I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to put my own thoughts down. I don't care about grammar. I don't care about spelling, which half the time autocorrect does most of that stuff for you anyway. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to date the day, whatever happened that day, as long as it was enough of an event or a feeling or an experience where I could say, you know what, somebody might be able to relate to this.
So, hold on. Then is it, I guess I want to say, would it be fair to compare your experience of writing to, like, an influencer now who just gets on their phone and talks about their bad experience or their great experience, and just kind of like puts it down on film and then puts it out in the world? Is that kind of what you were doing therapeutically with the book? Yeah,
that's a good way to think of it. Obviously, with video, you're going to relate a little differently because you're looking at somebody in the eyes and you're seeing you're getting distracted.
Sure.
What are they wearing? How old are they? Well, what's going on in the background? Whereas I think if somebody just takes the time to read a thought on a piece of paper or a book, they could read it and then maybe stop and then maybe reread it and think about, how does this apply to my life? Wow, God, this guy's this guy's got it way worse than I do. Man, I guess my situation isn't that bad. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe, wow, my situation's really bad. Man, I gotta figure some stuff out here.
Sure.
But the therapist never told me to do it. It was just a decision to say, you know what, I have to know that at some point down the road,
you're going to utilize it.
Do you remember the movie? It was
Star Wars?
Right, that was it. Was it? Close. It was in space. It was George Clooney and Sandra Bullock. It was Gravity.
Gravity.
Do you remember that?
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember if I stole this phrase from him or if I just coincidence I said it and then I was like, oh, hey, George Clooney's saying the same thing I did. And it was when she was going through all these tough situations or whenever they would experience something, he would say, well, this is going to make a really good story.
Uh-huh.
And I had to think about it that way. I'm like, you know what, this is going to be really good. Especially if I can get to a really successful place in my life, this is going to be really, really good. Because I've never, ever read a book, ever, in my life that I could open it up and read the entry that the person was thinking and feeling that day for whatever they were going through and say, wow, that's what they were thinking on April 4th or August 4th, 2015. Oh, okay, well, what was life like? That was almost, wow, that was, what is today?
Right.
Is today the 4th?
Sure.
No, seriously, is it August 4th today?
It is August 4th. It is.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is an absolute coincidence. That's exactly
the date.
10 years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
I
That
will
is so
attest
fortuitous.
to that, to everyone.
I just
It
randomly,
is
there's
August 4th.
nothing in there. I didn't open it up. Just, wow. Okay. But that's what I was feeling on that day 10 years ago.
Right.
So to answer your question, I guess.
Well, as you were writing it, were you finding like all of a sudden it was opening up, like, I don't want to say a coping mechanism, but it was like it provided solutions to things? Like you started to see things more objectively versus emotionally, and you were able to be like, ooh, I can make it through this because I'm seeing it in a different perspective.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when we experience an emotion, you know, if we really think about what an emotion is, I mean, when you really break down what is an emotion, it's a flood of chemicals in your body, and it disperses really within about 90 seconds. But you get this flood of chemicals in your body, and then your body kind of gets rid of it over the course of time. But unfortunately, people make these reactions based on this flood of chemicals in their body, and it's usually not good.
A reaction or a choice of some kind.
Exactly.
Sure.
So I knew that, okay, if I'm having a really rough day or I'm having a really tough situation, and I'm like, hey, babe, meaning my wife,
or me,
or you're, I just need a minute. I just need 30 minutes. I need to be by myself.
Okay.
I might go downstairs, right? And I can put all those hatred, anger, frustration, happy, whatever it is, put it on paper and say, okay, I'm experiencing the emotion. I'm getting out everything that I want to say maybe to somebody, but I'm putting it on paper now. And now in a couple of minutes, I feel a lot better now. I don't have to say those mean, hurtful things to someone. I just did, and I can delete it. And I can deal with the emotion, but then I don't have to have the negative consequence later because I got it out, but I did it in a healthy manner.
Well, but you didn't. Yes, I do follow, but you didn't delete it physically because you wrote it down, but you deleted it from your mind of something that's controlling you, or you're going to dwell on, or it's going to make you feel a certain way. Right?
Yeah, sometimes both. Sometimes I knew that I'm going to write everything that I want to say, and I know that within a few minutes I'm not going to keep that in the book.
Sure,
I'm just going to delete it right now. Obviously, I'm not going to. But then I realized it's okay to put everything down on paper, and if I come back to this in 3 or 4 years, I'm going to reread it a few times before it's published. I'm going to see, okay, you know what? I might want to pull that out.
Sure, but you were brainstorming. Like you were just like cloud writing or whatever, where it's just you're throwing down these ideas, and therapeutically, it's actually helping you make it through this.
Huge,
right?
Huge.
Okay. So you're writing these stories down, you're writing these emotions down, or these feelings, and all of a sudden you're kind of like, this is becoming a book. But let's talk about the book. Like, let's get into like not the book, but you. Like, what are you going through that you're starting to write these things? What are the challenges and the obstacles that are kind of hitting you that you're like, whoa, I should be writing this?
Yeah, that's a good point because, you know, aside from all the emotion, once I started writing enough and I had enough content, I could go back and start seeing these patterns in my life, whether it was drinking too much, whether it was, okay, well, here I was a year, because it was really easy to say, okay, let me go back to a year ago, because it's hard to remember what were we doing last August 4th.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was I working out? Was I eating? But I could literally go back and say, what was I doing a year ago? And I could look at both versions of myself and say, well, here's where I was a year ago. Here's where I am now. If my situation, my life is no better, then I can track and say, well, here's why, because I keep doing this. I started seeing these patterns. And then,
well, no, I love that. I'm going to interrupt you because I want people to understand that that's a measurable. That's a KPI. That is like something that you can actually, you see, you write it down, I write down how, or I put on the wall, you have kids, right? And so it's like you write down the height of your child, and then they're like, I'm not growing,
They're both bigger than me now, by the way. Officially, Riker officially passed me.
So they're not, they don't think that they're growing, but then when you show them, like 6 months ago or a year ago, all of a sudden you see this huge change, right? And it's like, when you're writing these things down, it's like, you do see these measurables. You are improving, right? And if you aren't better later, then something's wrong. But you're seeing these patterns start to come out by just writing in your journal. Did you have an actual journal, or did you do it on a computer?
Just computer. Okay. Simple PC, pull up a Word doc, start typing. Yeah. And it's, when I always say the saying, if you're not embarrassed of who you were a year ago, then you're not trying hard enough. That's with anything. It's with anything.
No, 100%.
Working out. I mean, you're one of my inspirations for getting healthy, honestly. Because every time I see him, like, man, what's Blue's body fat percentage at? He's got to be like at 8% or something. He's ripped, and how does he do that?
I appreciate that. I got a compliment the other day from my friend Luke down in Dallas, and he was like, "Do you age?" Right? I'm like,
"You don't age."
No, I don't age, but I love it. No, I'm going for the Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciate. Okay, so you're writing, you're adding these things in. You are starting to see that there's patterns going on.
Absolutely.
When does it click with you that you're like, wow, this is going to help me through this?
I think it helped me plan. It helped me create a plan.
Because like a roadmap?
Yeah, okay. And I know that sounds really cliche. Oh, you got to have a plan. Well, you really do, because most people don't. Most people think are like, all right, I'm just going to do this for a while, and then things are just going to unfold how they're supposed to unfold, or I'm just going to be in a better place in a year from now if I keep doing what I'm doing. Well, no, you're not.
Yeah,
it's like eating crappy or drinking too much. You're not. It's not going to end well. We can get into that later, but I realized as I started writing and as I had a couple of years worth of content, I could go back and say, man, I am all over the board.
Sure.
I'm everywhere. I'm trying to become a cop. I'm going through these, these PFTs, the physical fitness tests. And then I want to be an Edward Jones rep. And then I almost went to work for the FBI. And now I'm doing acting. And now I'm doing the merchant services industry. Now I'm doing insurance. I'm like, I just need to sit down on something and focus on one thing that I'm fairly good at, or that I'm familiar with, because I say you got to put in at least 10 years, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's a hobby, your career. If you're going to get really good at something, you have to give it a decade. You just have to. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you have to do the exact same thing for 10 years. Like, I've got a buddy of mine, I won't name his name, but he's been in RV sales for years. He was really good at it, made great money. Well, he got sick of it. He's like, I just don't want to sell anymore. But he moved into a business. He started a business where they repair him now. Well, he's been in that industry for 10 plus years. So he started his company and he succeeded right away because he knows the industry.
Absolutely.
Same thing like with, acting. So I've been acting for about this is my 10th year now, and I just finished my biggest movie last year. Okay. So it takes a little time. You just have to enjoy the process. What do they say? You have to, the man who enjoys walking will get further than the man who enjoys the destination. You have to enjoy the process of, okay, it's not going to take a week. It's going to take a long time, but...
Well, and you hit the process part, right? Like whether you're starting a business or whether it's like the first day I walked in for, I landed a Levi's campaign, right? And I thought it was like, this is going to be easy, but the reality was it took years, right? And to stay in the business for as long as I did, it takes a long time to cultivate those relationships, the resume, the portfolio in our case, right? Or having those connections so important, and so it doesn't just come naturally. It's not that one thing. So, and even though you can change from some career, you can get into another one, as long as it's something that you enjoy or you did enjoy or you're an expert at. I think that it is enjoying the journey, and that's the experience.
But yeah, I mean, so I just realized I was bouncing around all over the place and needed to land on something. And that something happened to be the merchant services world, credit card processing. For people that don't know it, I'd just been doing it. I think when I started writing, I'd been doing it for maybe 7 or 8 years. So not 10. So I'd had a portfolio. We kind of got it taken away from the guy that I was working with. We lost everything.
Well, let's deep dive into the life challenges of Stephen that kind of brought you into that deep depression state. Yeah, like where you're flailing and you feel like you can't get out, and like you're not the only person to experience that. And I'm sure a lot of people, our listeners, have been like, I felt like I'm out of control. I felt like I don't have the direction. I might have a friend that says you need to have some kind of purpose, or you need to know, like put focus on something. But it's like it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And when you are flailing and you don't feel like you can get your head above the water, that was you because decisions and choices you were making. So get into the weeds of that. Like what were you going through that is just like one after the other after the other?
Yeah, I'll fast forward to we live in Liberty Lake, so I'd been trying the cop thing, tried to become a cop. Got an offer 1 week after we got here. Get the letter in the mail, and I'm thinking I have no money. I have a little bit of residual income from the merchant portfolio. We're poor, but at least we got back to Rachel's family fairly close. Okay, so that checkbox, we wanted to get back to her family, fine. But I have no career. I don't know anybody. I have no network to pull from, nothing.
But you moved from?
Moved from Vancouver, Washington.
Okay.
So we land here thinking, what do I do? So I get this offer in the mail a week later to become a cop. I'm like, babe, here it is. Here's a career. We could have a decent life. Here's what they're going to pay me, but it means moving back to where we just came from. I'm like, I can't do that to my family. I can't do this. So I said, I'm sorry. I'm going to pull out of the process. And shrinking down about 6 months of just making phone calls, trying to figure out if I'm going to do insurance, working on our merchant services portfolio, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I get a call from the FBI. Like, okay, what did I do?
Sure.
Oh God, they found out. And, you've seen those memes where everybody thinks, well, here's what I actually do. Here's what everybody else thinks I do. Here's what my mom thinks I do.
Yeah.
The idea of being a special agent for the FBI, I mean, that sounded incredible.
Sure.
And so I'm like, you know what? It's never going to happen. I'm just going to start the process, whatever. I'll just do it and see. I'll laugh about it later. Well, I go down and I take this test, and I get an email maybe 10 minutes later, hey, you just passed phase 1 testing. Most people don't make it to this point.
It's pretty
Congratulations.
Quick. Okay.
Yeah, it was a quick response because they graded your test and all right, you met the metrics. I thought, holy crap, this is going forward. So then I get a call and they say, well, hey, we want you to do a PFT, a physical, training test. Here are the metrics you need to meet: X number of push-ups, running, sprinting. And so I do it and I don't pass it. And I'm honest with them. I say, hey, I didn't pass it. They're like, all right, that's fine. I thought maybe that was a test to see if I was telling the truth.
Yeah.
So then they said, well, why don't you come up and meet a panel of agents in Seattle and keep this going? And it was the same question as the cop thing. I'm like, babe, here's a career.
Seattle,
I could be a special agent, babe. Check this out. We're going to have a career. We're going to have money. We're going to solve the money issues that we've had. We're going to have a retirement. This is going to be great. But, we got to move to one of the 53 big cities,
right?
Detroit or something. I'm like, I can't do this. Once again, I'm like, I can't push forward with this.
Is that because of your boys, or is that because of like
family? Family. Yeah.
Family. Okay.
Ultimately, like, I'm not going to uproot the kids. I'm not going to yank my wife away from her family when we just landed. But fortunately, what came out of that is they asked me for a profile picture. Take a shot of yourself so we can see what you look like. And I was really tan, like I am now. It was August and
August 4th.
August 4th. Yeah. Right. So I take this photo and I give it to him, and I met with this life coach at the time. It was just a buddy of mine, Mark Flory. Love you, pal, if you're watching this. I was his first client. And so he's like,
great plug for Mark.
Exactly. Yeah. Good dude. He says, what have you always wanted to do that you've never done before? Like that life thing that everybody like, I've always wanted to do this. I'm like, I've always wanted to be an actor. He's like, well, what are the first steps? I'm like, all right, I don't know. Let me Google it.
Yeah.
This was back when we Googled.
Sure.
So I Googled getting started in acting, and so I post this picture on this casting network site, which you're probably familiar with as an actor. and didn't think anything of it, completely forgot about it. Well, I get a call or an email or something, I don't know, 6 months later, and they say, hey, we're interested in having you out on Z Nation, the series, and shooting in Spokane. We liked your photo. Are you interested in auditioning? I thought,
cool, yeah.
holy cow, this is great.
But you're in Liberty Lake,
which
Lake. Is a baseball throw to Spokane, so it's not very far.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I tell my wife, I'm not going to do it. And she's like, you're doing it. She's like, I will find the way, the time off. She was working at Fred Meyer or something just to make ends meet because we had nothing. Okay. And so I get the time off and I go do this audition and just fell in love with acting. It was wonderful. So had I not given up the special agent thing, I never would have gotten to do it. So I think I was, I don't know, maybe beating on this wall thinking this is the direction I want to go. And it's like, there's no door here. I'm trying to make it a door. I'm trying to push forward. And I kind of need to just step back a little bit and pivot and figure out a different plan, because if I don't have a plan, I'm just going to keep scrambling and doing what I'm doing and bouncing all over the place. I have to find something that I can at least work towards.
But that also meets the metrics of, or checks the boxes, of makes enough money, provides for my family, allows my wife to be able to do X, Y, and Z, to be by her parents, and then give you purpose, right? And hopefully have happiness and like in some kind of enjoyment where you're not always putting fires up, but you're actually making a difference, right? So this is like, okay, I'm starting to see something that will check the boxes for all that.
Right, and so I landed on the merchant services world because I still had some residual income coming in from the accounts that I'd set up with this other guy. And of course we'd move, but I didn't need to be I didn't have an office that I had to go into with him. I could live anywhere. And so I thought, well, I've been doing this for 5-ish years at that point. I'll keep doing this, because the long term in this is I can keep building and building and building, and we'll still have this residual income and we should have a good life. That's my plan. Didn't seem like a great plan, but it was a plan. It was something that I could push forward towards. Sure. And so I did that for the rest of the year that we were there. Then I find out in December, my contract's cut. He takes all the accounts and we have nothing. I get a letter, I think it was like December, I don't know, it was like 5 days before Christmas or something. Yeah.
Is this a business partner? Is it that you work for him? Or is it that, like, what is that?
Good question.
Okay.
I saw him as a partner. I saw him as somebody that I'm building his portfolio, and we're going to be buddies forever, and he's going to keep paying me how he pays me, and I'm going to keep building his company, and we're going to work something out in the end, and it's going to be great. Again, not really having a plan.
Work something out in the end.
Yeah, okay? Worst idea ever, and I've learned that. Yeah, you can't do stuff in a handshake, unfortunately.
You can with the right people.
That's a good point.
You can.
I would with you, Blue.
Oh, thank you. I take that as a compliment. But you're right. Like there is. You can assume that people's best intent is going to be at the end, and sometimes that does not happen. Right. And when that rug gets pulled out from underneath you, it's like, man, that. And then what do you do? Like, I mean, like that sucks. So, okay, so
money has a way of changing that too.
Absolutely. So you're feeling like, oh, something's going to come of this at the end, and you're making a lot of money, and you're like, okay, what happened?
So I get this letter. It says, we're taking all of your accounts. The paycheck that you got last month, that was your last one. So not, okay, we're going to pay you one more. It's, the check that you got back in Thanksgiving, that was the last bit of money that you're going to get.
5 days before Christmas.
Yeah. Okay. So I have nothing. I'm like, of course, the emotion just, you can't even describe what you're feeling at that point. What are your kids how are you going to feed your kids? You don't even have Christmas presents yet. What am I going to do for my wife? Like, what the heck am I going to do? And that's where the depression really sits. And that's where I had to learn, I have to separate the emotion from the logic, which sounds easy, because when we're going through the emotion, it's really tough to differentiate what is smart situation and and what am I just reacting to?
100%. So you get this letter. It tells you, by the way, your last paycheck was all you're going to get. See you later. Bye. Love you. Bye.
Thanks for the last X number of years.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you tell your wife? Was she there when, tell me how that went down, because a lot of people would hide it.
Yeah.
A lot of people would try. Okay.
I'm such a big, I've got such a big personality and emotion. I can't walk into the room and somebody not know how I'm feeling. Sure. I can walk into the room and like, Steve, What's up? Like, what's bothering you?
Yeah.
Oh, man, am I that transparent? So I ended up just telling her, babe, this is what's happening, and I'm going to figure a way out of this, and here's what I'm going to do. Because up to that point, I'd started writing Medicare insurance. I met with her cousin, and her cousin's husband had been doing it and said he loved Medicare, and he worked like 10 weeks out of the year. And I thought, all right, well, you have my attention. What do you do? And Medicare, what do you mean Medicare? So long story short, I got into that. And I knew that the following January, so, a month and a half later, I would get all of these commission advances from that Medicare business.
Yeah.
So that would sustain us for at least another 3 or 4 months. But that's it. I've got 3 or 4 months to figure out. All our income is gone.
Sure.
Do I get a job? How much do I need to make? Well, if I get a job,
how old are you at this point?
I think I'm 34, 35. Let's see, December 2014, I would have been 34.
So you're established well enough to
Should be.
at least have a job
Yeah.
and like maybe you have some assets. And so, all right. And you have enough through this Medicare sales, like I can kick the can down the curb for a few months.
To figure it out. Yeah.
Figure it out. Were you lying to yourself? Were you just hoping and praying? Like, that sucks.
It sucks. And that's where the idea of having some sort of plan, and no matter how shaky it is, you can't just scramble and say, I'm just going to think about it tomorrow. Maybe a day. Okay, I'll take a day to myself and figure this out and be by myself, right, whatever. But I decided I have to have something. I have to figure out what am I physically going to do, not just the feelings, but okay, I'm going to get Medicare. I'm going to have this much money. It's going to dry up by this month. We owe this much in rent. We have this much food cost. We have this much for our car payment. So you can pencil it out pretty easy. I run out of money on this day. Okay, so,
But wait, I'm gonna add one thing, because even like all of this emotion, all of this like scare. I mean, you're scared.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh
you're, You're frightened, terrified. But you're sitting there and you're like, what am I gonna do? Like, I mean, that's going through your mind too. Like, okay, so I have to have a plan. Well, you just didn't call me and say, hey, Blue, what should I do?
Right.
Like, you have to formulate some kind of an idea, and you have to say, well, I could always go to work at McDonald's or something like that. I could always go back to whatever. And it's like, but is that what's going through your mind? Like, what is attacking your melon at this point in time? You're like, you talk about you were scrambling and you were like, oh, I don't know what direction to go to. But it's like, at this point, you're hit hard. What is your mind doing?
Well, the first things that usually come to the surface are the day-to-day needs and what's happening a week from now. Okay, well, Christmas is right here. So I've got some great college buddies. That was the only reason we had money for Christmas, because we put out a Facebook thing. This happened, and so my college buddies, without even knowing that they saw the post, they send us like, I don't know, $800 or $900 in gift cards.
Oh, wow.
So, okay. Presents for the kids. All right, we're good. Because they don't understand this.
Sure.
All right. We got presents for the kids. We have snow boots. Because we didn't need snow boots in Vancouver, but we do here. Okay, we have clothing. Rent's covered for a few months. We got Christmas presents. Okay, the immediate needs are taken care of. Okay, well, what about food? Well, God, I'd never even researched food stamps before. Never even considered it. I'd never been on them. My family had never been on them. I didn't have any friends that I knew that were on them. And if they were, that's not typically something you want to tell everybody. Hey, everybody, I'm on food stamps. Because it's embarrassing. I can't feed my kids. Sorry, I need money from the state to go put on the CBT card. And when I go buy groceries, I'm swiping my EBT card and everybody else is paying differently.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. So I knew that, okay, well, I get the immediate needs figured out. And then we get this big commission in January. And I realize, all right, am I going to start pursuing a job? Do I find just a job to crack the nut every month? Do I hold out for 3 or 4 months and try to find a career position? Do I ask my wife to go to work? Because, man, it would really help. But we have 2 kids that aren't even in school yet. So somebody has to take care of them. Do we put them in daycare? And so just this flood of...
Which is another cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember at that point I said, well, and this is kind of when the acting thing started creeping up. So I started taking every little acting gig I would get. Hey, Steve, we want you on set as an extra. You're going to be there probably at least 10 hours. It's going to be 3 days. Okay, if I get minimum wage, I get this much money. Okay, that'll pay the electric bill. And so it was surviving from day to day.
Yeah. Which is no way to live.
No, it's horrible.
No. And the stress that I'm assuming is putting on Rachel, and the kids don't really realize it yet, but it's like this undue stress of not having an answer is being in limbo, and that's awful.
Yeah, and so we realized, there was a way to focus on these really, really small wins and finding comfort. As cheesy as this sounds, finding comfort in a cup of coffee, because that's all you have. It's like that's all I have. I can't even take my wife out to a restaurant because we don't have any money. Well, here's where a pivotal point was.
Yeah.
Do you remember the guy Ty Lopez? He was one of the first ones on YouTube that started advertising his Lamborghinis.
No.
He's like, see my Ferrari in the background. I read a book every day and blah, blah, blah.
See my AT-AT in the background?
Yeah.
I watch Star Wars every day. Every day, yeah. It doesn't make any money.
The whole film, yeah, memorized. God love you for that, by the way.
Thank you.
So I remember seeing this, and he said, I'm offering this 67-step program to help you get out of your own way, so to speak. I don't remember what his tagline was, and it was $67, and you didn't have to pay it for the first 2 months. All right, I'll just do this. I'll just see what it is.
Okay.
So I start doing it, and he starts giving you these daily steps and lessons that you can learn.
So you took $67 you didn't have.
I didn't have.
And you took a chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
$67.
I know.
That's what my life was worth at that time.
I know.
And so I get to the end of day 55, because he said, well, okay, if it's 60 days goes by, you can't get a refund. Well, I get to the end. I'm loving this course. I'm loving these steps. I get to the end of almost the 2 months, and I call up the company. I'm like, I need my money back. Not because I didn't love the program, not because it wasn't helping me tremendously, but I had to, what did I do with it that month? I think I took Rachel and I out to eat. Because
oh my gosh, Steven.
It sucks. It sucks to even think about it, but that's what mattered enough at that moment. I'm like, you know what? I have to give her some sort of a small win here.
Like your cup of coffee.
Yeah, I've learned enough through this 2 months where I get where this is going. I got to get a refund. I got to take my wife out dinner, and now I'm going to apply these principles. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep building the merchant services. I'm going to keep building which, to backpedal a little bit, this guy had canned my whole portfolio in the merchant world. Well, I said, well, screw you. I'm going to go steal them all back, and I'm going to start my own company. So I started an LLC, which was more money, another $100, $150 money we didn't have, put it on a credit card. And so I started stealing all these clients back. I'm like, I already know how to do this. I know how to build this company. I'm just going to keep doing the same thing that I'm familiar with and keep building. And then, of course, I get the cease and desist letters and, you're violating this. We're going to take all your money back, and we're going to file a lawsuit if you don't stop right now. And then that's about the time the transmission goes out on the one car that we had. It had 150,000 miles on it. And I had this $2,000 limit on a card. And that was it, because we just filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy because we had so much debt we had to wipe it out. And then my transmission goes out. It cost me like $1,900 and something dollars. Like, what am I doing? Once again, I'm trying to get a plan. I'm trying to move forward. I'm focusing on these 67 steps. I'm taking my wife out to dinner so we have small wins. I'm back with her family. And then you just get this freaking gut punch of lawsuit, cease and desist, bankruptcy, transmission goes out. So I had to realize I'm always going to get hit with these hurdles.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because we had Josh Hong on here, and he had mentioned like he was going through all of these, like as working in the restaurant business, and his dad told him one time, he's like, aren't you tired of starting at zero every time?
Yeah.
And that was like his pivotal moment where he's like, actually, yeah, I am. Like, I don't want to start at zero. And I want to be able to go to bed at night and fall asleep and not worry about tomorrow. And so it's interesting that you say that. So, all right, so you're feeling these feelings. You're not liking the life that you're scrambling every single day. How are you going to make ends meet?
Well, and in understanding in those moments where something big happens, you absolutely have to take the time to slow down and remember, okay, let the emotion disperse. Because people that, you ever just stayed up for like 2 or 3 days straight for whatever reason, or you got like a couple of hours of sleep and you're just exhausted.
Yeah, it's called having kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But what's funny is your brain, I'm not a psychologist or a doctor or anything, but your brain operates the same way when you're in a panic mode as you are when you're really, really tired. You can't think properly.
Clearly, right.
So you have to let the emotion go and say, all right, I'm going to logically pencil out what just happened. Okay, I got a cease and desist letter. Okay, let me read through it again and make sure this isn't something that's going to kill us. All right, it's not. As long as I don't keep violating the agreement that I had, I'm going to be okay. All right. Transmission went out. Okay. Let's go shop it around. Let's get some quotes. Let's see if we can afford to do this. Okay. Find out if they take credit. They do. Okay. Or is it going to be under 2,000? Yeah. Okay, great. All right. Let's do that. Let's get it fixed because we need a car. Okay. Problem averted. And you just take a little bit of time to get through these steps until you can keep pushing forward with the plan that you'd had initially, which was to build the merchant services portfolio. So I kept doing that. I started realizing, well, if I can't set all these accounts up with this processor, if you will, I'm going to move them to a different one so that there's no cease and desist issue.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep taking steps. And I just kept doing that for about a year. And then I, again, looked back at a year later and thought, all right, well, I can look at where I was a year ago, cease and desist, transmission going out, no money, food stamps. Okay, well, here I am a year later, still on food stamps. Transmission's fine. Cease and desist isn't a problem. Now I have a little bit more residual income coming in. Okay, so we're tracking in a better direction. All right, this is good. Let's keep taking steps. We're going to run into more hurdles that we don't know about.
And you do. And you had mentioned this, like life will hit you with these things, and they can bring you to zero unless you have enough in the bank or if you have enough help or whatever. And so you're getting hit left and right, and now you're starting to get that traction.
Right.
But what I heard you say is also that you just kept moving forward. You accepted it, but you kept moving forward, and then you solved it. You solved the issue, or at least you diverted it enough so it didn't break you.
For a while.
Okay.
Because that'll happen for a while until you get hit with something else that you're not expecting, that you feel like, okay, this is the end. Well, no, it's not. It's just a different hurdle. So for us, it was the following year of, all right, we're still not to a place where we can even afford our bills every month. I got to get a job. And I remember Rachel just breaking down because she thought, Stephen, we've been trying to build this portfolio. We've been trying to become self-employed. We've been trying to build a residual income for so many years. And now you're going to go get a job. It's all for nothing.
Yeah.
And I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as, well, I just need some capital. I'm going to work my job, and I'm going to work this other business on the nights and the weekends, and it's going to suck, but logically, it made sense. And of course, telling her and walking her through that, the people around you explaining, I know I sound crazy, but I'm just going to do this.
Well, and you believe in yourself.
Exactly. But I have to, kudos to Rachel. She's easy to please.
Okay.
So it's, she's not a high maintenance person, that, not to make those people sound bad, but she doesn't need a lot of stuff. She grew up not having a ton of money. So for her, she didn't have to go on a vacation every year.
Sure.
She didn't have to drive a Mercedes, etc. So I get a job at DSHS, giving people food stamps, which is what I had been getting. I thought, this is ironic.
Yeah.
Here I am issuing these food stamps to people that I had needed, so I know where they're at.
Yeah.
And so I start working. I start building the company on the side, on my breaks, on my lunch hour. Every lunch hour, I drive to Starbucks. Yeah, it sucked. But again, back to the emotion and the logic. All right, here it hurts. It mentally doesn't feel good, but I know that I'm going in a good direction. So I work for DSHS for like 3 years. Well, money's getting better. Getting more paychecks. All right, life's getting easier. We're going out to dinner more. But that's the problem of, all right, if I'm making more money at my job, the company didn't go down, but it wasn't growing as quickly as I wanted it to. So I knew that at a point, if I'm going to make the decision to leave this and just do the company again, where is that moment? How long do I do this grind every night, every week, and working 70, 80 hours a week, exhausted, 2 kids, can't provide your wife what you want. You can take her out to dinner and stuff now, but gosh, Blue, I remember I remember when we had one car, she would want to go over to a friend's house and I'd be working and she'd have to have the friend come pick her up. And that in your mid-30s, hey, we don't have a car. We only have one. Can you come get me so I can come hang out with you and drink wine or whatever? Yeah. That's pretty demeaning for a full-grown adult. Yeah, for a husband,
for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we kept pushing forward. And back to the 10-year thing that I mentioned earlier, I kept doing that and then got to, I think it was October 2nd or October 4th or something, almost exactly down to the day, 10 years from when I'd started in the merchant services world. And I remember I'd left DSHS and I got a job at Liberty Mutual just to make a little more money and buy a house. And I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too fast here, but...
No, but I wanted to sing that little song that Liberty Mutual does, but yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. Especially working there, man.
Sure.
A horrible boss there. What do they say? People don't quit bad jobs, they quit bad bosses. Yeah. Well, this boss I had, she was so demeaning. And it was, I remember one morning I was taking a call from I don't remember what it was, one of the clients I was doing a claim for because I did inside property claims. And she just watches me the whole call. And it lasted like 5 or 10 minutes. And I get done and she looks at me. She's like, Stephen, that call should have only taken 5 minutes. It took you 10. You probably just wasted like $500 of the company's money. And I was like,
brutal.
Is this, how long am I going to tolerate this? Well, I put in my notice that day.
Yeah.
I went up to the boss. I said, boss, you know what?
The same boss that said that or a manager that was?
The manager over him.
Okay.
Because fortunately, because I've been doing the grind for enough years and making sure that we didn't waste money on things that we shouldn't be spending money on and staying consistent with the plan that I had, we'd built up enough residual income to the point where I said, you know what? I make more residual income now in my company than I do my job. I don't need my job anymore. Is it smart to leave? Well, you're immediately erasing 50 or 60 grand a year, which is a lot of money. But what's the plan here? The plan wasn't to work for somebody. The plan was to keep building the company. So now that I've got the company, I'm past all this garbage that I'd gotten through a couple of years ago. I quit my job and then I thought, I'm just going to build this full time. And that's what I've been doing since then. And it kept getting better and better and better and better. And we did that, and we also did the Medicare thing. And so since that point, the end of the book, I don't even think I left my job at the end of the book. So the next one that I just finished kind of takes off from that point, because everybody that reads this probably thinking, well, where's this guy end up?
What's the cliffhanger, right?
Yeah. Is he a millionaire?
Yeah.
Not here, I wasn't, but it was a really good ending. And talk about the best. You go through all these emotions of it's hard and you have one car and you don't feel like a man or a good spouse. But then the feeling of being able to say, screw you to that boss that said something that really, really pissed you off. It gave me the, how do I say this?
The fuel.
The permission to react to the emotion that I wanted to react. I wanted to react to her comment.
Sure.
With that emotion, I wanted to react how I wanted to react. And I got to, because it made sense logically. I thought, this is the best feeling in the world. I can walk away from my job and have all this money.
Your head high.
Yeah, it was wonderful. But it was a really tough road to get there. And if somebody asked me, would you go back and do it again? I don't know. I don't know if I would. Knowing what I had to go through to get there.
Took its toll.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to quantify, and even in a book, it's hard to pull it all together and say, would you do it again? I don't know. I really don't know, because if I did exactly what you did, if I said, I'm going to go be a speaker, I'm going to make it big like blue, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to write books, and I did exactly what you did, it would turn out completely different.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And because that's the whole idea of my book, The Sum of Four, is that we're all going to get
good book
to four. Thank you. We're all going to get to, that was a helpless plug by Stephen. It's like we're all going to get to our destination differently. Some of us might get the same way,
right?
But most people are going to get a different way, and it's going to cost more, take a lot longer time, or it's going to hurt more. And it's like, but if it is the priority and that goal that you want, you can eventually get to it. But everybody's path is going to be different.
Well, and the dream changes too. They say
along the way.
Yeah, I mean, initially it was like we said earlier. It was just, okay, what am I going to do this week? Sure. How do I feed my kids?
Or I wanted to be an officer,
right?
Or I wanted to be at the FBI, or I wanted to be that like
a famous actor.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And so it's like that can change. Plus, the obstacles that come can change the path of that, but as long as it's going towards kind of the direction that you want to go to, and maybe it's within the same industry or something like that where you're that expert. But no, there's no set way of doing it. But you mentioned this earlier. It's the journey that is the process is where you learn and where you grow and where it makes you stronger. And then you can tell these lessons not only through your book and your next book, but you can tell your kids. And you can tell your friends. And so, like, that's like when you were telling me your story, I'm like, man, this guy has gone through a whole lot, but so have other people.
Yeah.
And your story is just one way that you got through it. What is the one thing that you would say got you through everything? If you were to zero down, like, what is it, the overall, not the pivotal point, but what is something that was like, man, this worked? I'm going to guess in my mind, but what is it that you would say helped get you through all of those stages that might not be worth going back again? What was it that made it that made you through it?
Yeah. Well, I know when I was this might be a weird analogy, but are you a runner? Do you run?
No, I hate to run.
I do too.
Heidi loves to. I don't, and I'll watch her all day long. I hate it. Like, I hate when people say, like, just picture the mountain over there, and then once you get to that tree, it's like, I've never had a runner's high. I
haven't either. Yeah.
The only thing that's ever made it like any enjoyable piece to me is when we had an MP3 player, right? Or when that came out, because the Discman would always like bounce, the MP3 player like changed it for me. Then the iPhone, right? And then it's like the iPad or the
iPod,
the iTunes, or the iPad, and that changed it. That was like a game changer for me to at least enjoy the process a little bit, right? So yes, no, I'm not a runner, but continue with your analogy.
And so I don't run. I had to when I was doing the FBI stuff to train, but I ended up getting this weight vest. It was like 80 pounds. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna Hulk out here. I'm gonna put 80 pounds on. I'm gonna go walk for a couple miles a night. And so
this is pre-rucksack, influencer. Okay,
exactly.
Popularity wise,
exactly. And so I remember when I would go on these walks, sometimes I would have music, sometimes I wouldn't. And sometimes I would say when I was walking, if it was a night that I didn't want to do it, but I needed to clear my head, or I needed to just get to physical exercise. I remember thinking, some days I can look not at the mountain. Sure. I'm just looking at the end of the block. 80 pounds is a lot heavier than people think.
Yeah, it is.
But I remember thinking, okay, today I can look all the way down there, and that's my target. That's where I'm going, and I feel good about it. And it was okay to do that. But then other days, or even as I'm doing that walk, I'm halfway there thinking, man, I don't want to look at the end anymore because it's discouraging me.
Sure.
I'm just gonna look down. I'm gonna look down at my steps because that's all I can focus on right now. Because I don't want to see how far it's going to be. I don't want to know how long it's going to take to get there. I'm just going to focus on these little baby steps and be happy with it. And then when I get bored of that, okay, I'm going to look up again. And so I think that idea of what helped me get through that was some days it was, I'm going to put the picture of the Gulfstream jet on the fridge with the mansion on the lake and the jet skis and the nice restaurants and the fancy car, because that's what motivated me then. But then some days I had to tear him down. I'm like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a Ferrari today. Yeah. I'm just going to take him down, and I'm just going to go get a Starbucks coffee because that is going to make me happy right now. And it's not a huge emotional reaction. A huge emotional reaction would be going out and buying a new car because you feel like you need it. Don't do that. Focus on the small win. Okay, go get a coffee. Make that be happy. Go on a small not a vacation. Don't go to Disneyland. Go camping. I hate camping.
When you're a proponent of like the small little vacations, right? Like really recharge yourself. And I think a lot of people are different. Like and with kids, I think you might relate to this, is that sometimes when you go on a vacation with your kids, it's not a vacation.
Right.
It's almost more work than
Take
a
vacation from
right?
the vacation.
And so, exactly. But it for me, what I've always liked doing is going on like a little bit, like these shorter little vacations really kind of like recharge me. Yeah. Versus like, oh, we need 2 weeks over here. It's like, as long as I can get away, I can have a movie night, for example. I can just activate everything and I can just focus in on something that gives me a little bit of fun, then I feel more recharged. And so that's my little vacation.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it doesn't have to be, because I always ask people, if your mindset is you have to take a 2-week vacation every year to get away from your life, what's your life like? I don't want that life. If you have to take 2 weeks to forget about everything and get away from your daily living and your job, find a different job. Find a different career. If it's that bad, I want a career that I don't feel like I have to leave it all the time. I've taken calls at Disneyland. I've taken a call from a client. They'll call and say, I'm waiting in line at Space Mountain. I'm like, hey, Joe's calling. Hey, babe, I'm going to take this. We got to wait a little bit. I'm going to grab this real quick because I don't feel like, I got to get away from this. Do you follow? I'm like,
100%.
I never wanted a life where I had to do that. I wanted to be able to say, I can incorporate everything. If we're going to go have a dinner, let's write it off. Let's make it a business dinner. Let's just talk about business for a couple minutes. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I got this, I think from Ty Lopez, it's called the edge effect. So you have the forest, you have a lot of creatures in the forest. You have the deer, you have the squirrels, the rock chucks, the coyotes, whatever. Then you have the lake. You have all the fish and stuff in the lake. Well, if you look at
I don't even know what a rock chuck is.
a big gopher or something.
Okay, all right.
But if you look at the amount of water in a lake and you look at the amount of life that's there, most of it is just empty.
Sure.
Most of it is just water. Maybe microorganisms and stuff, but that's beside the point. Same thing if you look at the forest. Well, if you go to the forest, you see a lot of trees and grass and stuff, but you don't really see a whole lot of wildlife. But if you kind of bring the two together, if you go to the edge of the water, that's where you've got all the frogs and all the deer coming down to drink and all the fish are coming up to get all the food. It's kind of this blending of two worlds, and that's where life is. So why try to create this job or career that you just want to run away from? And on the same note, you can't have this life where you're not being productive and not doing anything. I've done that. We've got the residual income. I've spent those horrible weeks where all we do is go to the bar and drink. I'm past that now. So everybody says, well, if I had all the money, I'd just go drink Mai Tais on the beach. Yeah. For a week you would.
Yeah, you get bored of it.
You get bored. Yeah. You can't do that every day. And you can't not feel like you're pursuing something.
Yeah.
So, but to blend those two together, that's where I wanted to get to. I'm like, I got to find this edge effect. Where's the edge effect? It's a weird concept, but
you found your edge effect. Like you found that. And that is that what kind of got you through everything? Like you were able to find that spot where you were comfortable enough to where work is not life. You're not emotionally drawn away from things and you're freaking out whether or not you can pay for X, Y, and Z. And it's like, you're just in a happy place. Like that's your edge is your happy place.
Yeah. And as the money increases, I don't know the stats on this, but if you're really poor and you make, $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year, there's a lot of problems that come along with that people are going to have. Your car's always breaking down. Maybe you don't even have a car. You're struggling to find food. You're struggling to keep the heat on. There's a lot of those third world problems that are there when your money's lower. When it gets a little higher, maybe $40,000 to $60,000 a year, a lot of those problems go away. Now you're dealing with different stuff. Okay, well, now we have to deal with insurance. Now we have to deal with maybe we have a little bit nicer car. The check engine light's not popping on all the time, but we got to get some other things fixed. And then you elevate a little higher than that. And now it's, okay, well, now we can go on the vacation that we wanted to. Maybe it's not to Maui for 2 weeks. Maybe it's to Seattle for a couple of days.
Or a Mariners game or something like that. Right. And
yeah.
It's like finding that.
And so I think progressing through that process, the problems change, the stresses that you have change. And so for me, I realized my edge effect was I'm going to get to a point where if I ever feel like in a day that I've lost the day because of my work, I can have a couple of those. But if I can go a couple of weeks and the last 2 weeks have been a blur. All I've been doing is working.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
I like that a lot. Does Rachel remind you that, or you just self-medicate yourself, or you self-talk yourself and say, hey, am I a blur over the last couple of weeks? Like kind
of both, like for example, she likes to do photo shoots. So she might schedule something with a friend, like, over the course of years living here, she's taken senior photos and stuff for kids as they've started out little and now they're big.
Sure.
And it's just kind of eye-opening, too. It makes you feel old. Like, wow, I remember when they were in kindergarten. Now they're seniors? What?
Yeah.
So just incorporating those little things into our schedule. Or, hey, babe, what are you doing Thursday? Nothing. Hey, I got a commercial shoot. I'm going to be gone all day. Okay, I'll make sure, we pick the kids up from school or whatever. Okay, thanks. So just kind of having that flex.
But that's a supportive spouse or partner.
Exactly. And so we both give and take in that sense. I might be a little busier because I mostly run the company. I mostly deal with clients and stuff, where she more takes care of the kids, makes sure we're eating healthy,
Which is a job.
It isn't. That's a full-time job. Anybody that is a full-time mom or dad, you can't flip that switch off.
No, you cannot.
You know.
No, I know. Two little monsters. I'm telling you.
See, mine are yard apes now. They've upgraded. They were little monkeys, but now they're yard apes. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that. Well, then let's recap of like, what is the one thing that you would want the audience to hear, or you would want to tell your kids, like in that time when you feel the most despair and like you're drowning. Mm-hmm. What would you want to tell your past self, or what would you want to tell your kids or the audience?
Probably, I keep hearing this phrase a lot. This too shall pass, because it will. One of the things I do every once in a while when I'm just having an overwhelming day or overwhelming time of year, maybe it's Christmas, maybe holidays make people nuts. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just a cease and desist type situation, whatever. There's this video, and I don't even remember what it's called, but you can Google it or go onto YouTube, and it's The Known Universe. And it starts out, okay, you're in this little spot in your town or your house, and it just slowly zooms out, keeps zooming. Pretty soon you're out of the city, you're out of the state, you're out of the country, holy cow. You're out of the earth. You're like, wow, that's how big the earth is. And you think it's going to stop. And then it keeps going. And then pretty soon you see the other planets in the sun. And then it keeps going. You're like, oh, wow, we're still going. We're still going. Pretty soon there's the Milky Way galaxy. Oh, it's got to stop there. And it just keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going. You're like, man, this known universe is this unequivocally massive creation that I can't even really get my head around. If I can't get my head around this, what the heck am I worried about my problems here in my little space in my house? And I think that the universe is something against me. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. And that's your perspective change, right? That's perception versus perspective. And it's taking that 10,000 mile view and looking down, and you see all these ants, and the ants don't care about anything and you don't care. But it's like when it's in the moment, it is very difficult, and it is hard to remove yourself both emotionally and I mean, just like in that specific time. But if you are able to do that, you can see things objectively from that 10,000 mile view.
The big macro view.
Yes, 100%. And it changes your chemical imbalance. It changes the way that you look at it, and you can start to solve the problem and realize like it doesn't, this too shall pass.
Well, and I tell my kids too, if you learn anything, if you don't learn anything in school, if you don't learn anything in college, if you don't learn anything at your job, learn a couple of things. Learn how to write, learn how to read, and learn how to articulate. Because if you can put something down on paper, if you can put thoughts down to somebody, yourself, whoever it is, that's important. Learn how to read, learn how to understand what it is that you're consuming. If you're reading books or somebody's, you're watching a video and it's doing the dial, whatever. Learn how to adapt, because if anything, the one thing that doesn't change is that everything's always changing. And learn how to articulate yourself. Learn how to speak, because that's everything. Reading, writing, speaking, that's how we communicate.
Yeah.
And if you can do those things, read, write, articulate yourself, and just learn to adapt, you'll get through anything. You really will.
Yeah. Even when it hurts, and even when
back in this, you probably read, I don't know if you're through the whole thing or not, but you remember the opening where I'm doing the firefighting bit and I've got the blisters all over my feet. I didn't learn it at the time necessarily, but I learned that, man, I can push myself harder than you think that I can.
100%.
To the point where, I mean, they were telling me in the hospital, hey, Steve, you might have necrosis. You might have cellulitis. We might have to take a foot.
Yeah.
If this isn't taken care of right now. I'm thinking, damn, I did pretty good.
Yeah.
You
made it through it.
I made it through. Look how tough I am.
The death of the bone, necrosis.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that that's so powerful and impactful because it is really, it's like making it one day after another, putting those little steps forward, like falling forward, and then putting that intent and that purpose behind what you're talking about really does begin to see that difference. And if you can look back, and that's you writing in your book or writing the book, you can look back and say, man, I've actually accomplished so much more than I thought.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that I was actually moving forward towards those goals. But then also that you see it as like, man, it's not the end of the world. And I got this.
Yeah.
And like you break it down in the positives of those are life skills that are exponentially ability to grow. If you don't know how to read, then that is just like the specific basic fundamental, but that sets you up for so many other things, right?
Does.
And so, or to communicate, how you network, how you reply to emails, like that is just a life skill that you need to be able to have. And I love that. Where I know that your book fell off, and like, okay, is it a cliffhanger? It is, because now you're working on your second book. Right. Where can people find out more about you, what you're up to, and what about your next book, Helm?
Yeah, so I'm not a huge social media guy. I've got Instagram. I got banned from Facebook. I think I deleted my account too many times or something. I don't even know why. But Instagram, I am Stephen Morton, Stephen with a PH.
Okay.
And then our podcast, of course, we've been tweaking the name a little bit, but it's just at Stephen with a PH spelled out. So we have, and we talk about a lot of this stuff because I get into the concept of the HELM Theory, which is the next book that I almost took off right from where I left off here, maybe a few months or something. And we talk about this health, ethos, love, and money, because those are the four things that no matter who you are in existence, even Jesus Christ or Buddha or whoever, everybody has a HELM Theory. They have a health plan, and maybe their plan isn't to plan. Maybe they eat garbage.
Sure.
And they have to have an ethos. Why? What are they living life for? Maybe it's for God. Maybe it's chaos theory. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe I'll figure that out one day. Well, that's your ethos. What's your L? What's your love and your relationships look like? And then money. How do you move through the world financially? You can't drop any one of those and not have a successful life. You could take somebody like Warren Buffett. Money's definitely got that figured out. Relationships for sure. I'm sure his ethos is solid. You know, he loves his family. He's got a great reason for doing what he does. But maybe his health isn't that great. I know because I know he goes and gets McDonald's every morning. I watched a video of him doing it. I'm like, all right, well, maybe he needs to focus a little more on that one. He's in his 90s, so I don't know how much longer he has. But to the plug for that one's almost published. This one is on Audible. You can buy it on Amazon. Get the paperback. Hardback's a little more expensive. Get the paperback. If you like the audio version, then do that. I love audiobooks.
And it is a great book. I will give you a plug on that. And I think that your storytelling through it really does hit home because you're relatable.
Thank you.
You've lived this life of like, the reader is going to get something out of it. And I think that you have actionable steps that like, it's not only a self-improvement book, but it's also puts things in a different perspective that are more attainable. And
one of the things that when I started this, I know a lot of people tend to gravitate towards financial stuff because money's everything to most people. With more money, more vacations, nicer cars, more experiences, more things. And so I just couldn't get my head around being a millionaire. Okay, well, that sounds nice. I just want to make a couple $100,000 a year. That would make my life really, really good. So I wanted to appeal to that target audience initially to say, all right, don't worry about the path all the way down the road with your weight vest on. Let's just focus on these steps right now. Let's get to the small wins, get to make $100,000 a year, make $200,000 a year, make $500,000 a year. Your life's going to change, I promise.
And absolutely will. And then if you set up correctly and you have that goal, then you begin to hit the next step. Right. And money does not buy everything.
It doesn't.
And you had mentioned this earlier, like money is not going to solve all your problems because
won't.
every time you get to a new specific economic status, you have new problems.
New problems, yeah.
All of a sudden your kid does this. And it's like, so it doesn't solve the problems. So be happy with yourself and always consistently grow and improve and learn, especially on the 4 that you had mentioned. So, well, I am wishing you luck with that book. I'm wishing you luck with your podcast.
Thank you.
Maybe we can collaborate. I'll be on that monster. But I love your story, and thank you for sharing it today and being a part of it and being a friend of mine. So thank you so much.
You bet, brother. Appreciate you.
I love you.
Awesome
Have
stuff.
a good night,
buddy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Navigating No. If this episode brings you value or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.